I'm getting ready to cover this now. And so what I got going on now, first thing is you want to inspect it first. Inspect all the edges. All the screws are tight. Everything is according to how it should be. Make sure there's no missing rivets on any joints or any, sections that are connected. And yeah, just want to just eyeball everything and just making sure everything is good and tight and no edges that could potentially cut the fabric or bulge out the fabric. And the next thing you want to do before covering is you want to clean it. And this is just a basic process what I do, from the last time. I got myself like an acetone container like this, and I just cut off the lid section like that, and I get some Scotch-Brite clean one. These are obviously not clean now, and just go over the whole entire thing, give it a nice little scuff surface with the acetone. And you're going to do that a couple of times, actually, making sure that everything is scuffed out really good. You can see how nicely scuffed that surface is. That way that when that fabric goes on there with the Polytack or whatever system that you're going to use, it will really stick on that surface really well. All right, the next thing to do is some anti-chafe tape, and you're just going to go all over any potential sharp edges that could rip and tear the fabric. So just like rivets and corners and stuff like that. Here's the top. Now this is the covering process. I flipped the wing upside down. This is the bottom section, and I did one last wipe around all the edges of where the fabric is actually going to stick. Here's my fabric in this tube. So literally I'm going to pull that out. This is, I think, a 1.9 ounce Dacron fabric sold at Aircraft Spruce. Pull it out and roll it out on top of this and cut it out and overlap it just enough to where you can get over 3/4 of the way around this tube. Alrighty, so far this is what you do now. Just lay the fabric on top, cut the little sections out for the fabric to go through. These strut attachments right there, and these little hinges right here. Make sure you just cut a little groove with a blade to push those through, as well as these bolts too. You don't want those bolts to be covered by the fabric. You're just going to lay some Polytack right on the spar all the way across it, and just make sure you seal the weave. You should see it bubble through, and just squeeze it like that. And then you're going to flip the whole wing over, and then you're just going to overlap it about 3/4 of the way around the tube, and then cut the access off. Okay, once you Polytack all the edges all the way around, we're going to flip this wing, flip it over, and overlap it about 3/4 of the way. The ends of the fabric, that way it clears all these little sections right here, clears this guy, and notice how it overlaps on that spar all the way around, almost more than halfway, just slightly over halfway. The last rib right here, you can see the wood. I overlapped it pretty good. So now for the Polytack. All right, now I flipped it over and Polytacked and ready to be shrunk on one side. Got the patches right here where the strut attachments are. You don't necessarily need to do it, but I think it's wise because that's just an open section right there, and those little cracks right there could potentially open up. So it's good to just put reinforcements on there. Another one right there. Right now, just letting it dry. This is the next step you want to do. I literally have these settings right here. First pass is 225, 250, and then 340, 350 max. I wouldn't exceed 340 to be honest. And yeah, I'm going to use this to calibrate my iron, and we're just going to do a light pass, just to shrink the fabric, just very, very lightly, not too heavy. I already did the first pass, which is 225 on the temperature, and I'm not going to fully tighten it on one end just yet. I want to cover the other section, and then I'm going to do the final passes on the bottom and finish the top. All right, now it's time to lay the fabric on top. All right, I know I should have posted this in the beginning. This is what I basically use. I got these clamps over at Harbor Freight, and it was only $8 for all these little clamps, which is perfect, just enough. And a blade, some scissors, some brushes, different sizes. I got the small ones, and I got these, which are a little bit bigger. And you got your Polytack C2210 paint surface cleaner, and you got your reducer for any of this stuff. This reducer works really good for the poly brush, and as well as the Polytack. What also works for Polytack to reduce Polytack is acetone, MEK. Those are other alternatives there to reduce it. I usually use acetone to reduce the Polytack. This is the spray gun that you want to get. The other one that they have, it's a lower end one. It's only like $10 cheaper. Is a piece of crap. I've used it before, and it just like shoots out heavy droplets. It doesn't atomize the spray properly. So this is the one that you want to get right here. And this is the part number 762034. So, yep, and it has a 1.8 nozzle on it. Mask, a little infrared laser gun to calibrate your iron. And you can always use a candy thermometer or just a basic thermometer that you could just like put on and lay it down flat against like a towel. All right, this is the next step right here. I poured some acetone inside of this and some Scotch-Brite. Get some gloves. We're gonna go on the top of the ribs right here. We're gonna give a nice scuff surface on the top. We're gonna just scratch it, not too crazy, but just enough to where when that skin goes on top and you put the Polytack, what we're gonna do is we're gonna brush some Polytack directly on the top and let it penetrate through the weave of the fabric, and you'll see it basically absorb into it, and it gives something to bite into right there. I mean, there's other ways of doing this. You can stitch the ribs to the fabric. I've heard of people using rivets. Not sure about that one, but okay, when you're laying it on top, take your roll fabric, start on one end. I started on the wood section where I have that rib, and I clamped 2 of the spars, one on each end right here, and then you're just gonna basically roll it across the whole thing. All right, and you're going to cut off the access, clamp those ends, and just start clamping the front of the spar right here on the leading edge and on the trailing edge of this spar right here. Once you poly-tack pretty much everywhere around and you get to this point of the front leading edge spar right here where the wingtip is, you'll start to see that there's a lot of material left right here. And if you put it around like this, it starts to, kink up like this, starts to fold over like that, and it doesn't look pleasing. So this is the trick. What you want to do is just poly-tack as far as you can go where the fabric looks straight. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your iron and you're just going to rub it a little bit right on the top right here, just to shrink this down a little bit, so that way you get rid of this excess material right here. Where the wood section is, wrap it around. And what I did usually was I just take my iron and just kind of stretch the ends over about an inch overlap, and then the rest of the way I'll just split it, with some scissors, and just poly-tack and just start putting it on the wood. Now that you flipped it upside down, that's the bottom section up here. You're gonna leave a little bit of extra material right here, because with this you're gonna actually use this to pull as you're taking your iron, and you're just gonna go around this corner. Now that it's done fully poly-tack, it is time to do the shrinking, the complete process of the shrinking. The moment you do your last pass at 340 or 350 degrees Fahrenheit on the fabric on the top section of the wing, now you're going to take your poly-tack and you're going to lightly take you can take 2 pieces of tape if you want to mask off this section right here, but I'm just going to run a brush alongside this top section of the rib with poly-tack. That way this fabric can have something to bite on right here on the actual rib. Okay, when you get the poly-tack brushed on there, you can see it penetrating the weave right there alongside the ribs, and then flip it around and heat shrink the bottom fully. All right, now that it's fully tightened, everything is all good. Now it's ready for the next step, poly brush. Now you can either spray or you can brush. I am going to brush. I already mixed it. It is for the poly brush, 3 parts 1. So 3 parts poly brush, 1 part reducer. I'm doing the top section. I already poly brushed the bottom, 1 coat with the brush, and do like cross coats, just up, 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 like that, up and down, up and down, up and down, and then back and forth. A little bit more. On the whole wing, all the way across. Okay, now that you poly brush both sides by hand, now we're going to do 1 coat with a spray gun on each side now. And we're going to set up the spray gun right now. So literally, you're going to use yourself a little filter like this. You're going to put it in that cup one. I already have it mixed right now. I got 3 parts, 1 part reducer. So, and then on your gun, you're going to want to set it out the gun. So when you press this halfway, it's about 30 psi, between 25 and 30 psi. Now that we sprayed the front, now we're going to do the back or the bottom. Now that you sprayed it with poly brush, now the next step is paint surface cleaner. I'm just going to give this a light wipe with a towel and start to mix the poly spray. The 4 parts poly spray and 1 part reducer. This section right here, I'm going to finish up right here. You're just going to do that on the whole thing. All right, when you're going to spray the poly spray, you're going to set your gun, same thing how you did with the poly brush. You're going to set it to about 25 to 30 psi out the nozzle. So when you press this halfway, it should be roughly around 30, 25 to 30. So I got around 30. So, and now when you're spraying, you want to do cross coats on the whole thing. On your first coat, you're just going to do cross coats, just like this. You're going to work your way up and do it again. Throughout the whole thing, you want to do cross coats. Now this is the second coat on the poly spray. Now you're going to do a cross coat on your first pass, just like this. And as you get to the bottom, usually what I do is I'll take my hand and I'll twist this halfway, and it changes the spray pattern from this to this, and you're going to come up. Okay, right when you're all completely done with the poly spray, you're basically, next step now is you're going to paint it. And that's literally the last thing you do. And it just depends on what color you want to paint it. You can use polytone or you can use latex home house paint. And it's water-based. So you can literally just mix water with it and to dilute it to get the correct viscosity that you need to have it for your gun to be able to properly shoot it. So, yep, and when you're spraying it, you're just going to do cross coats like that. Just like that throughout the entire wing. Just all the way through. Simple as that. Nothing special. And you just do maybe 2 or 3 coats depending on how thick you want to apply the paint on there. And yep, and she'll look all pretty. So thank you for watching, guys.